Time for the box office. So at number 12 in the UK box office, it's not charted in the US. It's Rye Lane.
Just amazing rom-com.
Beautiful. Loved it on screen. Lived in Peckham myself, so
You did?
appreciated so many aspects of this. I have an email saying, Dear Dom and Yaz, i.e. the characters from Rye Lane, MTL and FTE, I just wanted to thank Mark for recommending Rye Lane. Although I'd seen the trailers and liked the look of the film, I needed a nudge to take the next step and book tickets. Normally, I hate rom-coms. But it was amazing to see black joy, black love, and a different side of the black experience represented on screen. Black nerdiness, black quirkiness, and the black middle class. We out here. Very often, black films focus on the many injustices that people from the African diaspora have been forced to endure. While we have many wonderful and heartbreaking films, it was such a relief to see something so light and warm and not have to go into a film afraid of being traumatized. It also made me question why so many films with black protagonists focus on those at the margins of society, whereas films with white characters are often from the middle and upper classes. I also wanted to commend the soundtrack and the beautiful way the city is shot. I moved to London 15 years ago and love being reminded of how fortunate I am to live here. It felt important to use my money to help send the message that this is the kind of film we need more of. Down with the Nazis and up with waving to people on boats, Dr. Monique Davis.
It's a wonderful email. Couldn't agree more.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
And I absolutely agree with you. I kept sort of waiting for a policeman to walk down Rye Lane and it just didn't happen. And that was genuinely a thrill. So UK number 10, US number 16 is Puss in Boots, The Last Wish.
You know what? Good for Antonio Banderas. Good for cats everywhere. Good for cat lovers everywhere.
Which is you.
As a cat owner myself, I mean, I do think my cat Vladimir deserves the Puss in Boots treatment. He deserves a biopic. He's lived a really wonderful, extraordinary life.
You've not written a kid's book yet, have you, Anna?
No.
Maybe that's the next project.
Yes, maybe it will be about my cat.
The life
about
of
my
Vlad.
cat moving from Madrid to Barcelona to London.
UK number 9, US number 7, it's Creed 3.
I really enjoyed Creed 3.
It was brilliant.
It was. And honestly, I understand that Jonathan Majors' character is the antagonist. He's such a compelling performer. I ended up rooting for him.
But it's the same thing that Michael B. Jordan did for me in Black Panther. He
yes,
sort of
exactly.
flipped it on me.
Yeah.
And by the end of it, you're just in tears for both of them.
He's a great villain. And also, I really loved the relationship between Creed and his daughter.
Yes, which I'm waiting for the spin-off with her in the lead role.
Yes.
Because
I
also
want
a
it.
deaf black female boxer, that kind of film is not going to get made unless they do it.
Yeah.
Unless these...
Part of the Creed franchise.
Exactly.
I can see
Unless
this
Creed
in the
does it.
future.
UK number 8, US number 5, it's Scream 6.
You know I loved it because your husband and I made a whole podcast about the Scream movies called Hello Sydney.
It's a great podcast, and also the film is. I really enjoyed the film. Mark says
enjoyed
it was a snore fest.
Do you know what? I disagree. I was very tense throughout the whole experience, and I actually enjoyed it more than Scream 5, which I liked. But this one, I genuinely was gripped, and I think they did a few things that was very new for the Scream franchise. You know, it's a interesting franchise in and of itself because it needs to constantly up the ante.
Yes.
And this one, you know, they moved to New York. It's the continuing characters from Scream 5. And I think, you know, spoilers are a big thing for Scream fans, so I'm not going to go into too much detail, but I enjoyed it, although the one thing I will say, and it's a choice, and they stuck with it, doesn't have as much humor.
Yes, I agree, because one of the best things about Scream is
They're
how
funny.
Yeah. Although big up Hayden Panettiere, always.
Oh, yeah. Always happy to see her.
UK number 7, US number 8, it's Shazam! Fury of the Gods. I sort of feel like less said about this, the better.
You know what? It should be subtitles Fury of the Film Critics because, God, damn, this film was bad. I felt furious at Lucy Liu's and Helen Mirren's agents for putting them in this.
UK number 6, US number 25, it's Mummies, and neither of us have anything to say on this because neither of us have seen it.
Good for the mummies.
UK number 5, and it's not charted in the US, it's The Pope's Exorcist. Anna, we've not heard about this on the podcast yet. Thoughts?
So, I had a wonderful time in the cinema watching this.
Oh my goodness, really?
It is Russell Crowe in his hammy era where he is going full tilt, being extremely everything in every single scene. It's not scary. It really isn't.
Is it supposed to be?
I think it is, but it's not. I think it really works as a hammy sort of B movie almost with relatively bad special effects. There's a whole Pope conspiracy. There's the chief Pope exorcist. You know, it's vaguely inspired by the real life cases of Father Gabriel Amorth, who's, you know, very very notable for horror fans because he's part of the inspiration for the Exorcist film, and William Friedkin has done another film about him, and there's been numerous films kind of made about him and his legacy.
I think Mark has also written one, I think,
has,
or co-written a film.
But this is just silly. I will tell you what, though, I cackled many times, not especially when there are multiple shots of Russell Crowe on a teeny tiny moped rushing through Spain to go attend an exorcism.
Oh my goodness!
And also when he is such a coffee snob, or there's a wonderful scene that I related to a lot. You know, he plays an Italian priest, and he's like, somebody offers him a latte. It's we'll talk about Super Mario later.
Okay, got it.
No, but you know, someone offers him a coffee. He's like, "Oh, a cafe latte this time of the day? Are you possessed?" Which I'm stealing.
That's a great line.
Yeah, because I'm a coffee snob.
UK number 4, US number 3. It's Air. So we have an email from David Thompson. Dear the shoe and the person standing in the shoe, LTL and the production team fanboy, I have all their albums. Having just returned from an opening night screening of Ben Affleck's Air in the gloriously restored Odeon in Bangor, Northern Ireland, I thought I would offer up my thoughts. In short, I thoroughly enjoyed it. In many ways, a companion piece in style and feel to Argo. My wife and I laughed, nodded along, and squirmed at all the right moments. Matt Damon, Jason Bateman, and Ben Affleck can do this sort of thing in their sleep, while Viola Davis continues to be utterly peerless in almost every role she embodies.
Correct.
As a director, Ben Affleck has mastered the needle drop, and while at times his scene-stealing CEO is one 80s sun visor away from going full fame, it's impossible not to root for the whole team. The 6-laugh test and the under 2-hour test were both passed, and the film also includes a Martin Luther King fact that leaves one open-mouthed. As perhaps the most famous sports personality of all time, I'm pretty sure Mark won't have heard of Michael Jordan before. However, I'm delighted to say, in my opinion, the film can be enjoyed by both those in and out of the know. Tinkety Tonk, up with Jason, BHFs, and packed out cinemas. David Thompson. So Michael Jordan is not actually in the film.
No, which is one of the things that makes Air interesting. It's a film about Michael Jordan. Well, actually, it's a film about a very influential licensing deal that Michael Jordan strikes with Nike.
Because on paper, that does not sound appealing.
Well, there is something to be discussed, and we don't have time for this right now, but we probably will in the pub, about the recent glut of films around IP, and most centrally about the licensing deals.
Tetris being another one.
Tetris is another one. Blackberry, which is coming out a little bit later this year, is also another kind of biopic of a product that is coming out, which is a weird format. And Air is essentially the biopic of a sneaker, the Air Jordans. And there's multiple different readings about, you know, the impact that it had on Michael Jordan's wealth, the creation of wealth, and also the impact that it had on further deals for other athletes. But as a film, as a whole, I love Ben Affleck as a movie star, as a celebrity, and as a film director. I think he is a wonderful director. I don't think this is necessarily a great film, but it is thoroughly enjoyable. I did laugh, and one person who I think needs to be shouted out, that email did not mention, is Chris Messina, who plays Michael Jordan's agent and has one of the all-time biggest laughs in this film, where he goes full hog, goes way up to 12 as angry, belligerent agent. And he's so good at it. And I think he's one of the top Chris's out there. And everybody forgets about Messina.
Poor Messina.
He's fantastic, always.
I think I would get PTSD from seeing a really terrifying agent, though, because we've all dealt with them and it's horrifying. At UK number 3, US number 2 is John Wick, Chapter 4. At the UK number 2, at US number 4, it's Dungeons and Dragons, Honor Among Thieves. And then at UK number 1 and US number 1, it's Super Mario Bros. So we have an email from Andrew in Belfast. Dear Mario and Luigi, my wife and I took our kids to see Super Mario Bros. Child 1, 10-year-old, and Child 2, 6-year-old. With the exception of Child 2, who could barely contain his excitement from the first time he saw the trailer, expectations were fairly low. Child 1 had heard my wife and I discussing the review of the movie by Robbie Collin, occasionally of this parish, and on the way in, she said apparently this movie is awful. The kids loved it. Child 2 was mesmerised the whole way through the movie. Child 1, disagreeing with Robbie, announced that it was brilliant at the end. They are clearly the target and it really delivered for them. My wife thought it was fairly heartless, and I spent large parts of the movie wishing I had a controller to play it like a game and wondered how good the game would be hooked up to an IMAX screen. Keep up the good work, Andrew in Belfast. I do feel like you do want to delve into this film as a player, 100%. It is absolutely for kids. There's no shame in that.
No, there isn't. No,
children are allowed to have a platform. They're allowed to have films that are made specifically for them.
Absolutely. And, it's difficult to adapt video games into successful movies or TV shows. The history of video game to screen adaptations is mostly littered with failures rather than successes. Although obviously we've had the massive, roaring, acclaimed The Last of Us really recently. I'll admit this is one of the only films on this list that I haven't seen. I'm very happy for the kiddies to see it. Go forth, enjoy it. I'm not gonna sit on my high critical horse and say that it should not exist. Of course it exists. Go enjoy it. I'm glad you did. Everything needs to satisfy everyone.
I went with a pint of wine and I absolutely that's not a audible typo. It was a pint of wine. And I had a thoroughly brilliant time. I feel like Jack Black singing Peaches, 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 Peaches just took me back to School of Rock. I just, what a performance as Bowser.
With these kind of films, like with Dungeons and Dragons, for instance, which is number 2, I have never played D&D. I know the impact that it has had on pop culture. I had a great time. There is an owl bear. There's one of the other 2 top Chris's, Chris Pine. And you know what? I think if it satisfies both fans of the game and regular going audiences, that's a win.
Thanks very much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed watching it as much as we enjoyed making it. While you're here, check out all the other videos because they're cool too, aren't they?
Yeah, and if you want to keep up to date with everything Kermode and Mayo's take, then check out our social channels.
I mean, why wouldn't you?
I mean, I would. I have done.
Excellent.